Welcome to what will probably be episode 8 of Randall Vision. I am your host, Randall. And we're doing something different today. There is no title going in. This is more of a vlog. There's some catching up that I got to do. Let's start with smoking cigarettes. I haven't smoked in any of the videos so far intentionally. Because I wanted to make these videos to be friendly to all ages, and it sets a bad example to our children if we smoke cigarettes. And that's something I'm currently coming to terms with. I purchased a copy of Alan Carr's The Easy Way to Stop Smoking. I'm a few chapters in. He's already doing a lot to alleviate fears regarding, he identifies the problems of nicotine addiction and addresses your fears associated with it. So that's what I've seen so far in the book. It's been helping. He told me to continue smoking while I read. So I'm taking his advice. And also I ran out of tobacco, and Melissa, my wife, encouraged me to purchase another can to be on the safe side. And I listened to her, which was also a big learning step for me. Is, you know, I want to quit, I'm just going to stop. And her saying, well, how about you get a little extra just to be careful? And agreeing with her. Well, she didn't make the decision for me. She presented her opinion or her ideas of the solution, and I listened to her. So that was a big step in my growth right now, learning to engage with others. That's a big one. But right now I'm just kind of babbling. Why? Okay. So the Solipsism episode came with consequences. That me just saying those words didn't drive home the point. But whenever I went back and I watched myself say those words, it created kind of like a psychic feedback loop. Like, you know, if you put a microphone next to a speaker, the sound keeps circulating through and through and through. When I saw myself say that, there was approximately a psychic feedback loop. And it fried my circuits. It snapped me out of the funk that I had been in for the last indeterminate period of time. There's a couple of mile markers on when parts of me checked out in the past. And by leaving solipsism, those parts of me are returning. One thing that slipped away was the earliest was, I think around the time I was 9, I read A Wrinkle in Time. And in that book, they describe traveling via tesseract or something like whatever word they use. And it's, imagine an ant in a string, and the ant has to walk across the string. But to get to the other side, from one side to the other. But if you pull those two sides together, then the ant can walk across, and then you stretch the string back out. And the string represents time and space, and the ant occupies points in time and space. So it's like a jump. And part of me that checked out when I was 9 was the part of me that like cares and prays to God and has feelings. That I was disgusted by the world. I was disgusted by war. I prayed to God for world peace. And since nothing changed, it made me feel like God didn't exist. And I was just heartbroken that something could be powerful enough to create me in the world, but not powerful enough to answer my prayers. That if God cared, why do bad things happen? And I know now, I do, I get it. Bad things happen. The piece of scripture that corrects that is that the world is made of love, and the divine light of love casts shadows. And those shadows is the pain and suffering that we experience. And those shadows pass because the world is made of this divine love. It doesn't mean that the shadows don't exist. They're real, but they pass. So that's why it seems like God doesn't answer your prayers sometimes. The other big part of me that checked out, on my 30th birthday, I smoked salvia for the first time, and it creates ego death. For those of you that have never experienced ego death, imagine the thing that is you, and imagine that goes away, but you could still see and think, but your memories in your entire existence is gone, and you can still see and think. And what I saw and thought, well, for the beginning of it, like you take the hit, you exhale it, and as you begin to breathe oxygen again, reality is deconstructed right before your eyes. And mine was like a Coogee sweater being torn in two, kind of like that, everything pixelated and torn in half. Even the most minor physical things that you could still feel during the transition process creates extreme pain. And once the deconstruction of reality was complete, I hovered over the void, and I believe I saw a sphere-like object that may or may not have represented Earth. But the void was empty. It was actual nothingness, not just the absence of something, but like the nothingness that it exists outside the bounds of time and space, the ineffable one. And then as you come back, as I came back on that day, the 30th anniversary of my birth, as you return, or as I returned, it felt like pages of a book turning. And each one was a pulsing wave, and reality began to rematerialize around myself. And I panicked, the one thing that I was sure of more than anything upon returning was that this world is not real. And per non-duality, that is correct. But the world in which we live is dualistic in nature, which I learned recently from a guest of Lex Friedman, who spoke very well on the topic of string theory. He was saying they haven't produced any results in the last 30 or 40 years because our current level of technology is not advanced enough to confirm many of the suggestions put forward by string theory. So, I don't understand string theory. That's not what I'm saying. The guy that does understand it said that the world we experience is dualistic. And the salvia created an experience that was non-dualistic, and it was one of many ego deaths of which I have gone through. So, in addition to the child of me returning by coming out of solipsism, the part of me that didn't believe, or like the part of me that was certain that this is an illusion. No. The part of me that's certain that this is an illusion still exists, but the part of me that believed in the world has returned, and they now exist side by side. So like, I've been reaching out for mental health care. I have multiple different symptoms and things that need addressed by professionals, but I think so commonly people suffer depression and anxiety that's like the basket that professionals want to put you in. Like today, I got a piece of mail from one of the healthcare professionals that was a little booklet on dealing with your depression, and I just laughed at it. I'm like, I'm not depressed. I'm struggling with smarty pants mental disorder. I'm having difficulty reconciling all the various maps of reality with one another, and it negatively impacts my ability to function in the world. I became aware of full-blown agoraphobia. Like on Sunday, I was unable to go to the grocery store. My wife went for me. At the beginning of the week, I could not be alone. I felt that if I was alone, I would need to go to an inpatient hospital. I didn't want to go to an inpatient hospital because I feel like being at home is a safer, more positive environment for the healing experience. And I was able to work through what I needed to be able to be home alone. So after a few days of reflection and praying and all that, I made a checklist of things that will support me while I'm home alone. I didn't bring the list down with me because I didn't know what I was going to talk about when I sat down. And I needed to start putting my faith in things besides myself. I've been putting faith into my family and friends. I've put faith into, our emergency response systems. I've put faith into our mental health care system. And probably one of the most important things I've put faith into is God. I've decided that my primary symbol of God is the sun. God sustains all life on this planet. The sun does that, and the sun, with its supreme power, just as with God, can and will destroy us if we do not behave accordingly. So the thing I'm talking about is climate change. This is quite obviously real. Science is real, and scientists have shown that our current level of pollutions and whatnot are leading us down a road that leads to extinction. And so, back to before going on a tangent, the sun is God. I worship it at sunrise, noon, sunset, and midnight or bedtime. And I use my own words. I say, I love you. Thank you for sustaining life on this planet. As well as a greeting with the time of day. And then the final part is I kneel down and prostrate myself before the sun. And as I do that, any pain or discomfort felt is ritualized discomfort, which you need in your life. And I lean on God. I have been offloading and delegating the responsibilities and pressures in my mind to behave perfectly onto a being that is perfect. I'm not perfect. I can't shoulder that responsibility. God is, for lack of a better word, perfect is a word that should be ineffable amongst infinity, God. There's certain words that we use and we pretend like we know what they mean, but we don't. The word perfect has always bothered me. The word all, the word nothing, like we pretend like we know what those words mean. And in certain contexts, we do know what they mean. But in other contexts, they are entirely ineffable. So, I don't know. I was just going to talk for a cigarette. That felt good to get that out. We'll see how many times I cry when I watch it. Thanks for sticking with me. And don't forget, you're a sovereign individual. Do what thou wilt.